Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Teddy. What are we? What can't we stop doing?
We can't stop snapping.
And of course, that is Teddy. My name is Brad, otherwise known as Bradsifer, and we are joined by the king of custom cards, the glue that holds the community together, and everything that is Snap-related news and new cards, data mines, and anything interesting along the idea of the game itself. It's Drewberry. Hi, Drew.
Oh my goodness. Hello, Brad. What an introduction.
I really do stand by that. I think that when it comes to that type of content, I think it's easy to identify each content creator within their own space. And yours really is, like, when I think of Snap and I think of the cards themselves, I think of you as content. When I think of, like, the high production value and things like that, I think of, like, you know, Cozy. When I think of, like, streaming, I think of Dexter. Everyone has their little their bubble, and I think it works as a huge gear and all the different cogs, and that's what you do. And again, like I said, when you were on Snap on Ego with myself and Chris about a month or two ago, you were the first content creator that I discovered for Snap. So, you know, look at that.
There we
That's
go.
full circle, baby.
Bringing people in. Let's go.
Love it. Yeah, I've always thought of my channel and the videos that I do as like if I was hanging out with my buddies in the basement and a new card came out and we're just talking about it. You know?
Yeah.
Like what was some neat ideas? How does it work? Those kinds of things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, a new card did come out.
Ooh.
And Jean Grey seems to be pretty fire.
No
Drew,
longer bugged, by the way.
What was your initial theory craft, and has she lived up?
So right away I thought of Surfer. I think a lot of people were drawn to that, just being a 3 cost and working pretty well with the package because Brood fills the location and then you're free to do what you want.
Right. Buff it later.
Yeah, buff it later, get that extra power. And I think that has actually performed pretty well. I think that's, I don't know if I'd say like tier 1 deck right now, but like at least tier 2. Like it's doing pretty good for
amazing.
me anyways. I played a lot of Surfer beforehand, so it felt like a pretty natural fit for me to put it right in. And aside from that, I don't know if she lived up to expectations as much as maybe anticipated. Like certainly a good card, but I think a lot of people are going in saying she was going to be the next big thing. And like if we were to compare it to like Kitty Pryde that seemed to really steal the meta and create bounce archetype, she hasn't quite had that hold on the meta compared to some of the other releases.
It's real hard, right? Because she came into a Kitty Pryde meta, and Kitty Pryde is already the counter card. Also, like Jeff is the counter card, and so when you don't counter the best deck, it's hard to become the best deck, right? She does play with Kitty and Jeff very well. I actually think that she is everything that she was hyped up to be. I'm running her in a Thanos ongoing shell right now, and I played through Gold Conquest and I didn't break a sweat. It was like, am I cheating? Is this too easy? It is too easy. Like she's working for me in that shell, especially. The Surfer, I don't know. I wasn't getting traction. It's probably my own ineptitude there, a little bit of pilot error. But then also just like Jean and Guardians with like a Mojo in there. Elevating Mojo and the Guardians from total obscurity is enough for me to give her a little golf clap there because I love those cards and it's finally an opportunity for them to really shine.
Can I give you a little bit of a hot take about Jean? I think, let me start by saying I think she's good. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna be like, oh, she's bad. That's my hot take. I'm not going like that. But within Surfer, I think she is not even the most impactful card to come into Surfer this week. And I guess we'll talk about that in a little bit in terms of the patch. But yeah, I think that she's just okay in Surfer. I do like her in Thanos a lot. Honestly, I'm happy to see Thanos actually played again. I saw someone running a high Evo version of Thanos with Jean Grey in it, and it kicked my ass. And I was like, well, this doesn't... And I knew looking at that deck, I'm like, I don't think you're real. I'm not going to let it bother me that it beat me that bad. Because I know if I were to go try that deck, I would draw horribly. It'd feel so clunky. And because I've done I've done the mashup of like Thanos, I did Thanos, Galactus, High Evo, and Kang and Iron Lad were like the 5 build around cards that I did because they all, Yeah, I know, right? It's like I paid for this deck. I'm gonna fucking run it, and it was fine. You get surprise Galactus sometimes and stuff, and that's fun. But it's like I don't think it's viable to just mash all these things together. But I think Jean Grey's really cool. I really liked her in regular ongoing destroyer, and I've actually been running ongoing destroyer with a Dazzler as well now. Puts in a nice curve.
Yep.
Because like yes, she technically, we talked about this a little bit, Teddy, a few weeks ago. She's pretty much the same stats as Captain America.
Yeah.
But as far as what she produces, but I don't know, she's just like worked out like nicely.
Sure.
And like I think she kind of feels a bit better when you can, buff her up and stuff. But yeah, Jean Grey's cool.
Yeah, she's got a little more style than the old Captain.
Mm-hmm. And I got a cool variant where Captain America, what cool variant do I have of him? None at all. Have you seen, by the way,
I have the Cat America. That one's great.
Oh, yeah, I have that one. Have you seen the nullified Captain America yet?
Ooh, I have. So? Where he's standing on a hill of corpses or something like that?
Yeah, and his shield has like the hands and stuff on it. He has the red eyes. Oh my God. Yeah. Why don't we just have like these venomized and like nullified variants that are unreleased? Stop that. Stop it. Pause all your other variants and just push those. Also the noir variants, please. I really would like to have a complete noir deck, even though none of them function well together, but I love those variants so much. So much.
Oh man.
But other than go ahead.
Need a Captain America buff before that one comes out.
Please.
Yes.
Can we also please get a Punisher buff?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So these are the two that are always brought up side by side because they're supposed to be mirrors of each other.
Yes.
How would you buff those cards?
Just for both of them, I would just take base power down and then ability up, so that you have higher upside if you're scoring their ability, and then a lower downside if you're not scoring their ability, and then your ongoing synergies feel like if you run an onslaught, you have just a little bit more punch.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I could dig that. Yeah.
So like a 3/2 cap +2, and then like a 3/1 Punisher plus. I don't know the math. I guess would 2 work because he'd go up to a 3/9.
That'd be really big. You might have to cut their base even farther, and then you could run him with Bast or something like that as another combo piece. There's a lot of potential, and they're pretty fun cards.
Okay, I know we have to get to the patch, but I really have to ask now because you brought up Bast. Because someone brought up an interesting point. It was Glazer from Snap Judgment. I was talking to him, and he was working on an article or a video, one or the other, about the problem with bounce at the moment. And he was asking for my opinion on some things, and then we were talking about it back and forth, and the subject of Bast came up, and I was like, is Bast even, like, is Bast a problem? Because
100%.
when those games, when you have those turns where you turn one Bast and you hit Angela, Kitty, Monkey, and like Mysterio, it's like, how do you, or Iron Man even, right?
That's my balance to bounce, is to cut Bast to set cards to 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not known as a problem, or it's not talked about, I think, in the community because you don't notice it. You don't realize the effect until it's impacted the game at the end, and at the end they've played their hit monkey, they've played their whatever cards, and you see the power of those cards and you go, oh, those are broken, they need nerf. But really it was that Bast on turn 1 that like basically stole the game from the start, and you didn't know.
Oh baby, I was running a bounce deck up against someone who had wave. They would turn 5 wave every single game, but I was also running Nakia, and so I had a Mysterio that had both Bast and Nakia buffs. He was a 4/4 across the entire board. They would play Doom, I would play Mysterio, and I would beat him. And I just won the Conquest match by doing that multiple times. So it was insane.
Man.
Wow.
Just a 2-cost Dr. Doom casually dropping down.
Well, Teddy, I'm glad you brought up Nakia, because now we get to talk about the new patch. We have finally gotten the patch this week, and we got a bunch of really cool buffs, some interesting nerfs, and I guess we will talk about the nerfs first. But actually, we got new art and animations, which is actually something I've been wanting. We got Shuri, Infinite, Sabretooth, and Agent 13.
Oh, yeah.
Very quickly, do you have a favorite out of these 4? Have you seen them all yet?
I have seen all of them. I like all of them. Sabretooth is just so punchy and visceral and so fast that I think it might be my favorite.
I have not seen it.
He growls, and then you get a triple claw strike through the center of the screen, and he hops away back to hand.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to play a destroyed deck
just to show you that he got destroyed and he's jumping back.
Yeah.
Also, can we talk about the glow up that is Sabretooth just being a card with no buff or anything, by the way? They're just like, people started playing him and kind of realizing, oh yeah, this is good with like Null. Yeah. I'm like, oh, warms my heart. Really.
Deathwave didn't have space for him, but Null is like, yes, I will feast.
Yeah, which I think is nice.
Yeah.
Have you seen any other ones besides Sabretooth, Drew?
I've seen Shuri, and it took me a second to realize I was in a Conquest match. In the first match, I was like, that seemed different. Okay, I don't know what happened there. And then it kept happening. I was like, oh, yeah, that's neat. That's nice. But you know what? I glossed right over that. I didn't notice they added animations in the patch notes.
Does Shuri... So before, I was pretty mad that Shuri didn't have an animation for one, because she was such a cool and iconic card. Number two, she will fake you out by having... If a location moves, or if she moves, it's like paired to the location that she is played to. Does her animation correctly pair to the location?
I would imagine that would so normally when you have a card move or a location move, all the cards reset for a second as everything settles and their animations re-trigger. I would imagine, I haven't seen it, but I would imagine that her animation would re-trigger, but it would show on the previous location. It would have to, right?
Okay, so you think that it is working, that if shuffle happens, it's at the right location?
I hope so. I'd like it to work.
Yeah.
I do wish.
We're asking too much from a company that then suddenly had Killmonger killing one-cost cards after they didn't change Killmonger. That must be the most frustrating thing as a game developer, that you have this product, you worked on changes to something, like everything else was working, you changed something, and then something that was working before that you didn't change breaks. And you're like, why?
Yeah, I don't envy them. And then all the negativity that they get from especially, dude, Glenn is a saint amongst men, because everyone ats him. He always answers questions on the thing, and I always see people being like, "Why didn't you nerf this?" And he's just like, "Well, we put the patch in 2 weeks ago, and there's a process and stuff." And it's like, "Well, nerf it now." And it's like, I can't handle explaining myself over and over.
Put me on a private server where my decks win and my opponent's decks lose.
Don't give them ideas, because they can make a lot of money from that.
For $500 for the Pro Bundle Part 2, you get a smaller regional server.
All right, so getting into this patch, other than the audio and art, so basically, again, it's Shuri, Infinite, Sabretooth, Agent 13. They all look really cool. But the big first thing, the meat and potatoes, is the nerf to High Evolutionary. Though, not to him himself. He's still a 4/4. A lot of people were expecting, Drew, even, you said this in one of your videos, he should go back to a 4/7 after a bunch of these nerfs. Though I do think that your nerfs were a bit more aggressive for High Evo. I think you hit everything except for Shocker and stuff.
No. Actually, it was pretty close. And if anything, I think they were more savage to Hulk than I was. Maybe. But the change so that he has to be in the hand or in play, I think that's pretty significant, and that's the reason why he's kind of faded out.
The fact that he's no longer ongoing, so he's losing all ongoing synergies, and Valkyrie, who's in a tiny bit of an uptick, will reset him. Fully reset him. So will Shadow King.
I didn't think about that.
So Shadow King and Valkyrie are now completely effective against Hulk, whereas before he could still muscle out of them, or strange locations like Quantum Realm where he could muscle out. He can't do that anymore. There was a lot that he lost here.
Well, no, Quantum Realm, he would still get small, right? Because it was set his base power, which is 12, and then he would get the plus 6. He'd be an 8 at that point, right? On Quantum Realm before?
That's fair. That's fair. Quantum Realm interaction would remain.
Yeah. But regardless.
Yeah. It's still, there's a lot of situations where it impacts him, and my suggestion was to put him to +1 power, which I think a lot of people were kind of saying. Yeah, so I thought, I don't know which one's worse, because if you don't draw Hulk until the end now, the +1 might have been better. And the only other change that I had to High Evo was giving him 3 power, like you said, putting him to 7, and reducing 1 tick of negative damage from the thing. That's it. I had the same prediction
Okay.
for Wasp and and then a different version of Hulk. So I actually feel like they were almost more savage than me, but I got, of course, anytime you bring up balance changes and you're not the devs, or maybe even when you are the devs, you get destroyed by comments.
Oh, you can't please everyone. That's just the rule of balancing. But we're getting ahead of ourselves for people who haven't seen this for whatever reason. Just to reiterate, Wasp is still a 0/1, but now only afflicts a single random enemy card with -1 power instead of the afflict 2. And then Hulk, instead of being ongoing +2 each turn, you ended with unspent energy. He is still a 6/12, but when you end a turn with unspent energy, +2 power. But he has to be in hand or in play. And of course, we already just touched on the fact that he's no longer ongoing. So again, you lose the synergies, Valkyrie hits him, stuff like that. So yeah, I would say it's a pretty big net negative for the deck, though I'm hoping that it gives room for people to maybe include some of these other cards. I do still think Thing was the sneakiest best card in the deck before, and I still think that now. I'm fine with Cyclops, in my opinion. I think Cyclops is at that exact perfect level of balance where he's like really good, but if it was any more, it'd be broken. Any less, he'd be unplayable, right?
Any number tweak on Cyclops is just really hard, right?
Because like I was saying before, if you do like the storm thing, right, with Cyclops and plop him in behind the photo location, and the opponent has a Nebula or Sunspot, if he only hits one card a turn, those just outscale him instantly. Yeah. So that he's just bad in that spot. But if he's anything more, then of course, because at least now he pulls even with the Nebula. So if you outpower the Nebula initially, then you win that race in the locked location. I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
The whole list in general in High Evo as a card and how it works and everything, it has a bigger excuse me. Goodness me. It has a bigger problem. Yeah, I'm dying over here. Sorry about that. It has a bigger problem in that
it's the most Canadian thing.
Conquest.
I'm dying over here. Sorry about that.
Just clearing my throat. I know. Over up in here in Canada. So the High Evo in Conquest, it works so well in Conquest, but I don't think it works as well in Ladder. I don't know if that's your guys' experience.
I know. I agree.
But,
I agree, absolutely.
Now there's this weird, like, how do you balance the game? Which one do we lean towards and change? So I don't know, because I think it's still a really good deck in Conquest, even despite the recent changes. I still am seeing it. I think and maybe the culprit is actually Lockjaw, but regardless, it's just a little strong.
I don't
know. What makes
you
feel like it doesn't work as well in ranked? I don't know. I've still not wrapped my head around why. I know the stats are, like the dev said, that he's doing better in Conquest and he was not doing as well in ranked. I'm still not wrapping my head around why.
I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I feel like I run into more Shang-Chi's or just more counterplay or crazy stuff, maybe even on ladder, whereas Conquest people are a little bit more reserved, maybe do the mirror match a little bit more, maybe just do like very specific lists because they want to get those tickets and not waste the resources. But that's also just a small sample size. I could be
I think I can answer for you. Okay. So it has the best of one problem, the same way that any other game has that. So if I were to say something about like with Magic, for example, Magic has a best of 3 with the sideboard and stuff like that, and it has its definitive meta with that type of format. Yep. Then it has a best of 1 within the same format of like pool of cards, but the decks can be wildly different because they're skewed in a way to function in a best of 1 meta to high roll their chances of better RNG to actually be more effective in that form of a ladder. High Evo, in this sense, is more akin to a best of 3 deck in the way that it functions and it's built to be extremely flexible. Though, when it doesn't run well, especially the Lockjaw version, for example, when it doesn't run well, it can be very clunky and just come up short against other decks that are skewed to be more RNG dependent and be a bit more heavy hitting. You know, like when they run well.
Okay.
Whereas when you take that concept and put it into multiple matches, one after the other, then the overall balance and flexibility of High Evo comes back into the swing of it to bring it back to a higher win percentage because 9 times out of 10, it'll perform well. It's just in that single elimination type of idea, it doesn't.
I
Or
could
there's a
buy
higher
that,
chance of
that
falling short.
the mentality and conquest to retreat on bad hands is stronger than in ranked. And so basically, he's being hamstrung by people not retreating when they should in ranked because they got a low ball, but they wanted to play it out, and they're not
Yeah.
sure what the opponent has, so they're like, well, maybe I should stay in. But they were like, you didn't set up Thor or Lockjaw, get out. It's like,
Yeah,
what,
exactly.
what if?
Yeah.
My opponent's just run and bounce, and he got bast, so and he snapped on me, but I'll see it to the end.
Yeah, if I don't have a turn 3, if I don't have a play until turn 3 against a bounce deck that I saw bast on 1, I'm probably just dipping.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
instantaneously.
That's
I'm
what
like,
you should do.
Have fun, dude.
Yeah.
Enjoy the cube.
Yeah, I think that I like that they preserved the high roll of High Evolutionary to still be there, and the voice line of Hulk Smash when he's 18, 20 power, like that experience to such a beloved character is great. But then just hurting the consistency, I think it's kind of an elegant design change.
I agree.
Last week, I just want to bring this up for Drew. We talked about our predictions for the balance changes and what we wanted to do. And I think Teddy and I both talked about the +1 energy thing for Hulk. But then I added in a really weird twist with mine. I'm like, I want +1 energy, but make him a 14 power base power. Okay? That was like my trade-off. But then I was like, well, what happens to Giganto? Now he's garbage. He's just a base 6/14. I'm like, you rework Giganto to be an ongoing card that's like a 6/8 or a 6/9. And when it's in the left lane, it gets plus like 6 or 7 power, but you can play it anywhere else.
Power creep.
Let's work up
Power
Giganto,
creep.
baby.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. It's actually just an issue, a long-term issue of Snap, I think, with such low numbers and so many new cards that need to be interesting, need to be exciting, being added.
Yeah.
You might see a lot of power
It's like
creep.
actually impossible to please because something comes out a cut above. I'll release Zabu or release Surfer. People are like, it's broken, nerf it. If something comes out that's a cut below, I'll Living Tribunal, I'll Snowguard. The devs get roasted even harder, honestly, than when something comes out that's broken. So yeah, man.
I totally agree.
I mean, I think Snowguard should just be, asymmetrical. Like it should just work for you, and that's it.
Exactly. See, here it is. We're gonna roast them over Snowguard, not the fact that they released Zabu in the state that he was in.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, this is here's my thinking with that. I would rather every card that's newly released be a Zabu than a Snowguard, because you can always dial it back,
tone it down later.
But pushing a card forward, then you run into the problem of like, okay, this card was bad. Then you push it too far forward, and now you have to bring it back, and it creates this pendulum swing of the community being like, angry, it's too bad. Angry is too good. You can't get anything right. Just push the envelope as much as you can the first time, like first go around, then dial it back later. I feel like that should be the philosophy of like a game where you can just change things whenever you want.
Yeah. Well, it's also like a factor of encourage people to play it. Once they optimize decks around it, it should probably come down. Encourage the theory crafters and the whales who are chasing every new card, because that drives meta change. And then as long as you are intelligent in your nerfs, you can still keep a healthy metagame. Which, in the case of Nakia here, has gone... She's been around the horn, around the clock, whatever you want to say.
Damn,
Beta
you're
Nakia was so...
You're leapfrogging 2 other cards here.
I am... That's because they don't matter.
We'll
cover them all. We'll cover them all.
Okay, really quick. Gambit's a 3/3 that you can't just like fling no cards out of his hand anymore. You have to have a card in hand to discard, because the flavor of him throwing cards at people is literally throwing your cards out of your hand at the other cards. Now he needs a card in hand, but hey, he's a 3/3 to boot. So whatever.
My understanding is this was largely done because it's just so intuitive to other card gamers that it's you read the card all the way down, and if you can't do something, then the card stops reading. There's like an explicit rule in other card games, and it wasn't here in Snap, and now they're like, because everybody was expecting it to work this way, it works this way now.
We win. We did it. We've beaten the developers.
And the Gatling Gun Gambit dies a sad death. It was a fun deck, but
you could throw in like a Swarm or an APOC. I think you could do like you can replace a couple of cards and do like APOC and Dracula in the deck to have a backup plan if you don't do your thing.
I've seen it everywhere in the last couple of days. I feel like a lot of people are doing that.
Really?
Just discard in general and Gambit. Lots of Gambit
with
Wong.
like Wong Mystique to fire
Not-
away.
Yeah, not quite the full combo. A little bit
Because I'm
more
remembering like
conservative.
negative into Wong Mystique, a Gambit, light them up.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I'm going to
Magic
miss, the
before she was
negative.
Yeah.
Ooh. Let's bring back Magic on turn 6, baby. That sounds great.
Oh, we want to
All right,
see that roll back.
the other thing before we do Nakia, it's Mystique. Really, nothing else has changed with the card except for the fact that if you have an on reveal trigger on your ongoing card, which at the moment there are 2 of those in the game, Soulstone and Electro, she also gets the on reveal. So I mean, I think I think they got something cooking.
Yeah, future proofing.
This is a future proof thing. Where I'm really
data
intrigued
mines
of what it could
for
be
the next 2 months, and none of the cards out of the next 2 months have this either. So they're looking like way ahead.
because they want you to forget about it, and then when this comes out a year later, you're like, oh, I see what you did.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All
right, we can talk about Nakia. Teddy, you can tell us what she does. What does she do now?
She's finally viable again. 3/3 +1 to every single card in hand. The 3/1 and 3/2 stat line that was giving +2 to the 2 leftmost cards in your hand was just a headache to try and incorporate, and she was a cut behind all the other decks that wanted to be able to run hand buff and then still be able to fit in the Moon Girl. I'm loving it. I think that being able to get the buff for a couple different decks right now, they're quite happy to run this, and I think it's only going to get better as we scale into Dakin season, where he is able to double himself and is running in a deck that I think can easily run Swarm as well, another card that can make duplicative use of the buffing. I was planning on trying to squeeze Nakia into that deck even with her old state, and in this state it's just a no-brainer.
I really love that change.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know we're gonna get to it soon, but I think she is the most adjusted card in Marvel Snap. I think she's underwent the most buffs, nerfs compared to any other card, which is just wild. And a lot of people probably wouldn't know that because a lot of it happened during beta, right?
Her versus Devil Dinosaur, it's really close, right? So we had Beta Nakia was a 3/0 +2 to everything. Then it was 3/1 +2 to the leftmost cards. Then it was 3/2, and now it's 3/3 +1 to everything. So 4 changes. Dino went from 3/0 to 4/0 to 5/3. He only changed 3 times. Okay, yes. Nakia is the most adjusted card. Yeah.
Nova's 3 times.
Nova's also 3 times. He got cut in half twice.
Okoye is another one that got jumbled around quite a few times.
Changes, but the 4 change. That's a new one.
Nakia.
Leaders also
Red
3,
Skull is
right?
almost there.
Yeah, Red Skull.
Red Skull. True.
That's true.
Wait, no, Red Skull is 4.
No,
right?
it's just 3, right?
Is he 3? He went down twice and up back again.
Once.
No, he reverted back.
That is an interesting point. If it's just a reversion, does it count?
Yeah.
Does it count? All right, we'll put it as an asterisk on that one and let the Barry
He's
Bonds
the Barry
sign
Bonds
that
of Marvel
baseball.
Snap.
Yeah, I like the Nakia change. I think it's excellent. It's a lot of fun. It feels a lot better to play her and just hit your whole hand for a lesser amount, but just not focus on targeting your cards where they are in your hand. Like that was just a little bit too clunky, right? So
100%.
Yeah, I agree, Teddy. The swarms are really good. That's what I thought of it right away. The discard package, that's really fun.
Can this bring Shocker, like a Shocker Moon Girl Nakia? Is this anything?
Like what, with like high Evo? To like bring the reduction?
So you're reducing the cost of a card in hand, you're buffing it, and then you're duplicating it along with kind of peripheral buffs as well.
The irony is that he discounts the leftmost card in your hand, and
which
now
would
she's
have been perfect for the old
now.
Nakia.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying. Yeah,
more reliable now.
Yeah, much more reliable. But
I feel like
doesn't seem like anybody runs Shocker.
Package. No, because it's a very weird effect that doesn't even make sense with him as a card. Like, what's the flavor aspect of that?
Oh,
he's punching the leftmost card, so it's smaller. I don't know.
Intimidating them to be cost less for him. Give him a special deal. I don't know. I mean, it makes sense that you're trying to pass energy in that deck, and then it opens up potentially playing what would have otherwise been only on curve rather than playing off curve, but it just hasn't gotten integrated.
Man, High Evo, he's trying to make the perfect society, right? He had a few slip ups. Shocker was just a bad result, a bad subject,
a bad batch.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
And if High Evo is consistent, then that means we have to put Shocker down, and we have to make a new one. So a rework has to be on his way.
Yeah.
There we go.
But
-2 to the leftmost card.
Yes, please. Thank you. I was alluding to this earlier, but yeah, I think Nakia is more impactful for Surfer than Jean Grey is. I think it works way better. I think you're probably correct to do both her and the Killmonger Nova package, but I honestly think there could be a build, and I've been messing around with it, where you just forego the Killmonger Nova package entirely and then focus on something else. Maybe you do Goose and Jeff.
With
Maybe
so
you
much
do
bounce though. Invisible Woman
you're right.
Killmonger is like the bounce kryptonite.
You're correct, but I mean, you also have Shadow King, which is also very effective against
That's
bounce.
Fair. That's fair.
So you maybe don't have to lean so heavily into it. And if you're doing the Jean Grey thing, then bounce can go around that sometimes. But look, I've noticed, in all honesty, when bounce doesn't have Kitty, Jean Grey is a bit more impactful than I thought she would have been initially against that deck. Because I thought even with how the deck worked in general, even without Kitty, it was going to be pretty easy for them to deal with Jean Grey. But I've noticed her put them in really awkward positions without Kitty Pryde. So I think her impact is a bit more. It's weird. I'm with Drew in some aspects of I don't think she was super impactful, but then I'm also with Teddy that she's met the bill a little bit. But otherwise, I think Nakia is the best card to come to Surfer now with all these cards. Hitting a Brood with her feels so good.
Yeah,
it makes me so happy. It's the same thing with Swarm. So
yes, I mean also worth noting if you're running the Sarah bounce shell, getting Nakia in there is also great. Hitting your Mysterio, making triple use of the buff equivalent to the Brood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just another way for you to be able to throw initiative and prep for this massive final turn, which is everything that deck is trying to do.
Yeah. And otherwise, looking at the patch, there's just card changes. I'm not going to read them off and one by one. I'm just going to rapid fire. Black Bolt, Black Cat, Bucky Barnes, Cerebro, Doctor Strange, Craven have all been updated in the text template, and that's it. They just make more sense in your brain when you read them, so you don't get really upset when you're like, why didn't this work that way? Though, now that I see Doctor Strange, did you guys see the Ask the Team question where someone's like, do you plan on never switching cards around in terms of effect when they're like, Wong is the master of portals, he should have Doctor Strange's ability, and just give Doctor Strange Wong's. And Glenn was like, well, that does make sense. No. That sounds horrible. Could you imagine being a pool 3 player and you've been trying to work towards getting Wong as much as possible, and you're like, I need Wong, I want to get Wong going, I want to get it, and then you finally get it and they're like, by the way, he's Doctor Strange now. You could have had Doctor Strange all along in doing the Wong going thing. He's a series 2 guard? 1?
Strange?
Is he 1 or 2?
Yeah, Doctor Strange comes in 2, and then Wong comes in 3. So if you reverse their effects, yes, somebody who sought after chasing Wong to be able to run their on-reveal synergies would be very sad. Yeah.
I love it.
100%.
But yeah, is there anything else in terms of the patch?
I mean, it leaves Bounce as the sole king, right? High Evo, I feel was already stutter-stepping. I think it also leaves Thanos in an incredible position, especially with how well he can utilize Jean Grey. And then with Echo coming out next week, who sounds terrifying to put underneath Jean Grey. I mean, you have to play here, but your ongoings will be destroyed if you do. It's wow, that's really scary, the amount of control they can leverage. And then if ongoing effects skew away, you run the Cosmo, and you're just, I got you every way to Sunday. That's not the saying. Something else is the saying. But
6 ways till Sunday.
I am heralding a Thanos renaissance. And I think High Evo is going to have to just do something new. Start running the Abomination side, Hazmat, A-Bomb. Run your Lockdown. I think that the Lockjaw is played out.
I think that's a very bold take. I think the Lockjaw is still going to be a good version of the deck. I think it's just going to take a hit, and rightfully so. But I mean, honestly, yeah, we should see more. Like, when was the last time you saw an actual dedicated, like, afflict all-in version of the deck with Luke Cage and Hazmat and A-Bomb and stuff? Like, whenever I see an A-Bomb and Haiva, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it was back to, like, when I saw it consistently, it was back when I was, like, first testing High Evo. And people were just running every single High Evo card together to get a feel for it. And then A-Bomb quickly dropped off people's radar, partly because the mirror was abysmal to him with Luke Cage everywhere. And now that Luke Cage is phasing out a little bit, I know that he's there as, like, there's some pockets of the meta where it's like bounce versus Shadow King, and then the bounce is now running Luke Cage to block the Shadow King and the Valkyrie. So you get into this whole punch back kind of thing.
So, Teddy, in your Thanos list, do you run Lockjaw?
No.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I want to see your list now. I'm going to have to check out one of your videos.
I don't like Lockjaw anymore in Thanos. It's not that you don't get the easy mode Quinjet thing.
Yeah.
And like I've noticed, like every time I draw Lockjaw, I'm like wishing it was something else in Thanos. The more I was playing around with it, ever since they changed Quinjet. So yeah, you know, a card that I've been trying to get people to play more of in terms of like Thanos lists, that I even did a contest on Twitter, be like, first person that gets an Infinity ticket with this card in their Thanos list, I will buy them the Ryan Gonzalez bundle next month. And someone did it. It's Iron Lad. Because I'm like, you hit a stone and you're like, this is really cool. It just works. It just works fine. Because like I was thinking of like the rule of like the 4-drop.
Yep.
It's a 4 something that does something. And if you think about Iron Lad, just if he was a 4/6 that just said draw a card and that's it, you're telling me that would not get run in every deck possible.
Zabu Iron Lad, cycle them away. That's why Crystal is all the way down at 4/4 and reciprocal. So if you paint the 4/6 that's only one-sided, it makes Crystal real sad. Like, what is she even doing out here?
Yeah.
But yeah, Iron Lad is very fun. I don't run him. I skew more toward other ongoing effects, and then I've got... So basically I run the efficiency of Thanos Zoo, and with a Spectrum ongoing finisher, but then I tech every control card flavor that I can. So I've got the Valkyrie, I've got Ghost, I have Professor X, and I have Shang-Chi. And so I can lock bounce out of lanes with the Prof X early to be able to win, and I have Jean Grey now too. So it's a nightmare for opponents to be able to line up against me, especially with the Ghost guaranteeing that that Valkyrie is definitely going to flip after they do.
Can you do me a favor and try Dazzler in your list?
So I cut Dazzler for Jean Grey. I'm not sure who
okay.
I'm not sure how I sub around, but I could definitely do it.
Man, I learned, speaking of Iron Lad, I learned a crazy thing. Somebody asked me to do this. So I'll even ask you guys. So if you use Sauron, and this deck makes no sense, so just think of it. It happened as a random effect, like X Mansion, okay? So Sauron comes out, and it removes the ongoing abilities of all your cards. And then you play Iron Lad. Iron Lad hits the top card of your deck, which happens to be an ongoing card. Does he get the ability or not?
No,
my understanding is he does
ability.
not.
He does.
Yeah. What?
He does. I did a science video today proving it. He copied Blue Marvel, who was silenced from Sauron. When I drew it, it was silenced. But he gave the Blue Marvel buff to my board.
Fascinating.
That's
so it's
weird.
not accounting for taking it out in deck. It like takes it out when you draw it.
Yeah, it hasn't been silenced when it's in your deck, but any like effects that would pull it out from. Yeah, you're right. That's must be how it works. It's crazy. I was shocked.
Love that. Iron Lad is doing all kinds of stuff that they didn't expect. The developers didn't expect the card to be hidden from your opponent. They thought that was going to be visible to everyone at the same time. Turns out it's not that way, and it's a low priority fix. So just all kinds of stuff out here, man.
Yeah. Well, nobody's running Sauron in an ongoing deck with Iron Lad, so I think we're okay. That's never going to come up.
Hey, sometimes you miss your Sauron on 3, and you got to go on Iron Lad on 4, and you hope you hit him.
Wow. Please no.
All right, so that's going to do it for the metagame discussions. I don't really feel super interested going into super in-depth talks about like balance and things like that we should change. There's no TA coming up that's going to be changing that in some way, shape, or form. So let's not beat the dead horse while we're waiting for something to change. But as we move on to Teddy's channel, You can find the link down in the description below. We're going to be doing something very interesting and taking a blast to the past of all the wonders of things in Marvel Snap and the things that you probably hated the most. So stay tuned.
Can't Stop Snapping is a podcast hosted and produced by Brad Saffer and Teddy Ninja, originally created by Michael Thurman.
Hey, Teddy, we had a guest. Who was our guest, Teddy? What happened?
The fantastic, the indelible Drewberry showed up to break everything down with us. Lost his webcam at the end, though.
He did lose his webcam. He is now a black void, but we can still hear him. He's still in our hearts, and he's still here with us in general. He has not died. Hey, Drew, where can people find you? Where can they kind of get to know who you are and enjoy your amazing content?
Hey guys, I feel like I have to echo like I'm in like a deep void and help, please. You guys can catch me. I'm just on the YouTubes. That's the place where I like to be with streams, videos, all that fun stuff, custom cards, talking about new cards. It's a good time. And the other places would be the Discord. We got the Berryverse. Super proud of that. We got a community of over 1,200 people, I think now, and just really awesome engagement. Everyone's just talking about cards, data mines, and making custom cards, giving feedback on custom cards is one of my favorite things about Marvel Snap, honestly, is engaging with the community. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Drew. Thank you, Teddy, for being my wonderful co-host. And, of course,
Always.
We'll see you guys in the next one.
Thanks for having me. See ya.
Bye.